podcast is presented by the Florida Thoroughbred Breeders and Owners Association.
Welcome to the Florida Horse Podcast, brought to you by the Florida Thoroughbred Breeders and Owners Association. I'm Tammy, Gantt, and I'm joined today by Brandon and Diannah Perry. Let's get started. Brandon and Diannah, I've been looking forward to have you in the studios today. You want to tell us a little bit about how you connect to the horse industry?
Prior to us even meeting, Diannah and her family grew up with horses. She's had horses since she was, little. Different kind of horses, quarter horse racing horses, some thoroughbreds, through some partnerships with her family growing up. I myself really didn't get into horses until after college. My parents had a large quarter horse farm here, Classic Acres. I was in Arizona working and finishing up college, and before I knew it, they had stallions.
University of Arizona, Arizona State?
Arizona State.
Oh, we're rivals a little bit. Yeah. University of Arizona Wildcat, but hey,
That's
good
right.
state, good state.
Unbeknownst to me, my father ended up getting some of the best quarter horse show stallions in the world and a large string of brood mares, and called and said, "Hey, I need some help. Can you come and help?" And that was really my introduction to horses, and that would have been in about 1996.
That's awesome. So about that time, I was actually interning for American Quarter Horse. So I would have known some of the family horses. I interned with the racing department and that. So really interesting connections we have. And then Elaine in our office, Elaine Ansbacher, you grew up with her. Yes. And in the show world.
Yes. Her father was a retired jockey. My parents were in a stallion syndicate.
Oh, wow.
And I believe her father was in the syndicate as well. And we spent a lot of time when I was growing up. I idolized her.
Oh, wow.
She just rode so beautifully and had such a talent with horses. And I used to just watch her ride all the time. And it's so exciting to see her now.
Elaine's amazing.
Yes.
We just did a member spotlight on her, and to see her
I
on
saw
the
that.
horses
That was
is
amazing.
just gorgeous. And the story about each one of the horses
Yes.
is just fabulous. So you were mentioning you got out of college. They got you over to the quarter horse world.
Yeah, so in 96, I moved to Ocala, and again, like I said, my parents had just a phenomenal farm, Classic Acres. It was stunning. I was really thrown to the fire. Sometimes they say, it's the best way to learn is to get out in it and do it. So that's what I was doing. So really within a short period of time, we were, collecting stallions, inseminating mares. We had at that time what I thought was just an amazing veterinarian, Dr. Phil Matthews, repro vet. I learned so much from him. He was a great person to learn from. Foaling, you name it. I was doing it in a very short period of time.
Wow, that's really incredible. I didn't realize you had quite much hands-on experience.
Oh, yeah.
That's really, really in it to win it.
Yeah, because like I said, we had two of the number one stallions in the world in the quarter horse halter industry. So we did a lot of ship semen at the time. Frozen semen was right there at the end became allowable. So we froze semen. We did everything.
Yeah, so the connection with Peterson and Smith and Dr. Phil Matthews makes sense because they're some of the premier horse reproduction specialists in the world.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, in the late 90s, when we were doing that, that was when they started the repro clinic.
There was a need for sure, and they identified it. And you look at now, I think they have 80 veterinarians there, and they service the industry. So interesting kind of origin story that connects you too. So let's flash forward a little bit. You were named Philanthropist of the Year, and then a Larry DuPont Award that you were honored with for that charitable giving that you've been doing. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. In Marion County in 2024, we were honored with the Philanthropist of the Year award,
Congratulations.
Which is a tremendous award to be bestowed upon us. When my mother, Kathy, passed away, she left a portion of her estate for charitable giving. However, she didn't identify which charities, and prior to her passing, we tried to get from her what spoke to her. Those of you who knew my mother, she just didn't want to deal with it. She had other things to deal with. She didn't want to deal with that. When she passed, that now became our responsibility. A lot of the charities that we donated to, there was actually 29, a lot of them here in Ocala, some up in Kentucky, and others, just that spoke to us, that we wanted to give to. We did a lot of research. It was a lot of work on our part to really delve into some of the charities, and we wanted the ones that thought could do the most impact and, actually go to the organization and not to maybe the management of the organization.
And I think that's important that when folks are looking at charitable giving to do that research, and then also to see how that partnership lies, because it's not just the giving of money, it's forming a partnership of I support what you're doing and your mission, and I want to see you be, like you say, where can this money have the most impact? And I know with Florida Thoroughbred Charities, we appreciated the generous donation because that was able to fund the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation farm that's been here since 2000. And I know you've seen that farm as far as growing around, knowing what it's about with the folks that are in prison that we like to call students that go through and get the equine certification degrees. And so that program is super impactful, not only for the horses to have lifelong homes there, but also for the women that come out of there.
Absolutely. When we visited that facility, God, it's been several years ago now, and I think we met you and Stephanie
Yeah.
Brennan out there. What a tremendous organization. The women there that, obviously had a little difficulty in life at one point or another, but we're trying to turn their life around. And so it's kind of dual purpose, giving them a purpose, but also rehoming thoroughbreds off the track that needed a place to go. So it really spoke to us.
And then you've also mentioned a few of the other charities that were national, so they aren't based in Ocala, but Thoroughbred Aftercare and Alliance.
We did the TAA, the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance, which is a tremendous organization. The TCA, which is that was the organization that we were honored enough to get the Hilaire DuPont Award. And
that's the Thoroughbred Charities
that's
America.
a charity.
For those not
Thoroughbred,
familiar.
exactly. They're obviously all the time raising money. They're doing a stallion benefit auction now, trying to raise money. They do the Ocala Farm Ministry here as a beneficiary of them, and of course they do a great job with the local backstretch and track employees and the farm employees.
I think they've funded 6 or 8 charities within this area related to the thoroughbred industry.
Yep.
So they are always giving back, and these are just a few of the 29. And I know the Humane Society was one of
The
those.
Humane Society was a big one, and I know this is not necessarily with horses, but it's to do with animals. My wife and I always had dogs, cats growing up, and to this day, animals have always been a big part of both of our lives. And then my parents, that's how they made their money, was through pet stores. In the late 80s, my parents' company was one of the first to do Humane Society adoptions in stores. It's pretty commonplace now with Petco and PetSmart doing that, but we were one of the first ones in the Midwest area to do that. So that has always been a huge part of our life. So the Humane Society of Marion County was the largest donation that we did. When we were first looking into this, I called Eddie Leedy over there, and I said, hey, can I meet with you? I'd like to talk about maybe some things that you need done. And, when I first met with him, a tremendous person, and he's like, hey, well, this facility, our air conditioners are getting old, and we need this. And I said, look, I'm going to think bigger picture. He had said something about just a whole entirely new facility that they could do more low-cost vaccinations, low-cost spay and neuter.
All the things that keeps that population of animals down, so
Exactly.
you don't end up having them there in the first place.
So we discussed that. He gave us a proposal of the estimated cost, what it would cost to do, and we funded the entire thing for what the cost proposal was at that point. So that was one thing I really wanted, that I thought was important locally.
And
to do.
it does touch the horse farms, even though it's
Absolutely.
not a horse
All
property.
horse
We
people have
the
animals.
barn cats, they find the cats and they
Yes.
find the dogs because they find the animals gravitate toward people that are going to care for them. So they end up on the horse farms, and sometimes they become the barn cat or the barn dog, and other times they don't fit the farm, and then they end up in the Humane Society.
Absolutely.
And end up in those windows, like you said, at pet stores, which I think it was actually a brilliant idea, because when you're in a pet store, you love pets, and when you see other pets there, you go, oh, maybe I could just take this extra one home. What's the big deal? So pet lovers tend to collect their pets. You've had, like you were saying, 29 different charities, and so that was a lot of work. I do appreciate our community also celebrating the amount of work that you did behind the scenes. I know you didn't do it to be honored in any way, Absolutely. But that Philanthropist of the Year, and I have to tell you, the cover I loved of the magazine when you were on it, because you weren't in corporate business suits. You were out like most Ocalans are. You were out in a natural setting with a horse, and you're such a photogenic couple. It was just like it gravitates. You mentioned you aspired to, you're like, I wish I could ride like Elaine. I think a lot of people now aspire to do things in our community more because they saw the charitableness of young people in our community that they can identify with. And so I think that you are going to have an impact well beyond the dollars that have already been life-changing with our community. But I think others go, wow, they do philanthropy, maybe I can find a way. Even if it's going and adopting one more barn cat or
volunteering.
Volunteering. And like you said, or what you did, which is go get research, just research and ask those heads of those programs. I think sometimes we're intimidated by the heads of the programs that are putting them on. But if you go and talk to them and you learn what their needs are, their mission, and like you said, you looked globally, but sometimes it literally is, I just need the air conditioner, or we just need toilet paper for the Boys and Girls Club, or whatever that might look like. It's not always the programs, but sometimes it's the other things, and something you go, oh, I could do that. So making a difference. Tell me a little bit, I know you got some thoroughbreds out there, so tell me a little bit about your horses, because you are an FTBOA member.
Yes, for years and years and years, we had a farm here in Ocala. We eventually moved to Lexington because, we were doing mainly brood mares, and for the type of brood mares we were doing, most of the stallions were there. So we just thought it was an appropriate move to do that. We did enjoy our time there, but we enjoy the Ocala weather much better.
Yeah, the weather's different, right? So you have two beautiful places where there's lots of horses.
Yes.
And they have great synergy together, but sometimes the weather does draw you back, right?
My wife and I, we were working farm owners. We had a large farm, 250 acres there. We had 125 horses. A lot of them ours, but a lot of customers as well from Florida. Most of them were from Florida through Dr. Matthews and his clients that would now send them to us to take care of. We had a great time up there. It was very rewarding. We met a lot of wonderful people.
And we did racing syndicates up there.
Obviously we did brood mares, but we started a racing syndicate, a pinhooking syndicate. It was something that we were familiar with. We enjoyed that. We actually ran a horse in the Derby, ran some very nice stake horses.
How'd your Derby horse do?
Well, he was really a sprinter, but at that time it was based on earnings and not points.
Yeah.
So he earned enough money. He won a couple of preliminary Derby races.
And his name?
Well, his name is Visionaire. Our racing syndicate was called Vision Racing or Vision. So he was really a sprinter, but you have the money, you got to go. So he finished 12th, ran a good race, but he came back and ended up winning a grade 1 at Saratoga sprinting, which is really what he was meant to do.
What his specialty was, yeah.
He was a very good horse, blessed and had a great time. At the end of the day, we decided to move back here about 11 years ago at this point. When we moved back here, we kind of took a pause from the horses a little bit. We moved back for some family reasons. Both of our sides of the family were having some health issues, our parents and grandparents. So in the past couple of years, we've been trying to figure out what we want to do to get back into the horse industry. We're both realtors now. We have a brokerage here, and most of our clientele are horse folks, which we love being around and talking horses.
Your website is full of all those photos of you with horses and testimonials from clients that have come here because of the horse world here.
And we were trying to figure out what we want to do to get back into a horse business of some sort. And at the end of the day, that's thoroughbreds are what we know, and I think it's important to do what you know. And we were trying to figure out the best way to do that. Is it brood mares? Is it buying a stallion share? What is that? And I think it comes down to when we had our farm, we were kind of stuck to the farm, as people that own farms know. It's 24/7.
And you are a very social couple. I see you out in the community a lot.
We are now because we don't have a farm.
Yeah. And so that's what I say. So you say, okay, if I like to be social and I love the horses, what type of aspect of the industry could I do where I'm not tied to my farm all the time?
Correct. And so one of the things that we weren't able to do, even when we had our races syndicate, is we didn't attend a lot of the races because you have to leave the farm, and so we didn't do that. So I think looking back, that's kind of what led us to maybe go this route. And obviously they're only 2-year-olds now, so they haven't started racing, but when they do, they're going to be racing all over the United States, Southern California, Kentucky, New York, Florida, wherever. And some of those tracks that we've never been to, we're really looking forward to kind of making a long weekend out of it to go to whether it's Del Mar or Santa Anita or what have you, that some places we've never been. So that's kind of really was our motivation to
it sounds like that's the part you haven't gotten to experience
yet,
because you've been able to do the syndicates, the pin hooking, every aspect of the industry. And literally, I think there's very few people in our industry that said, oh, I also, worked hands-on with stallions and mares. And it's a gift because now you 360 see all the hard work that goes into it, appreciate when your horses hit the racetrack. And even if they finish 12th in the Derby, it's still such a sense of pride because it's hard enough to get a horse to the racetrack. And then actually in a race and do well, and then go on to these successful things and to win at Saratoga. So lots of those are bucket lists for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And that was one thing we're very appreciative of, is how difficult it is, and we understand that.
For sure. Diannah, I think about some of the stuff that you guys do, and like online, you're so generous with people always liking posts, sharing posts, and making comments about different horse successes, and I love that you lift everyone else up with that, and it just shows that you love horses, for sure, and you love this industry.
Thank you.
So where can we find more information about your real estate website, and then also just a little bit more about you guys?
Perfect, yes. Our brokerage is called Newgate Realty, LLC, and it's www.newgaterealtyllc.com.
And we'll learn a little bit about your business and entrepreneur degrees, and then also that you enjoy being just a couple working hard together in our industry and just having a wonderful time in our communities. We just really, really appreciate you being in our community, coming back to warm Florida weather so that you can help create those experiences for your clients when they come here, and then also in the racehorse side of it. Hope to see you in the winner's circle many, many times.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
The Florida Horse Podcast is presented by the Florida Thoroughbred Breeders and Owners Association.